Acute iron poisoning. It's a classic tox presentation you're going to see, especially in peds. And it's one where what we do in those first few hours can literally change everything. All right, let's dive into the essential EM guide for managing iron toxicity. Here's the plan. We'll kick things off by figuring out the toxic dose. Then we'll walk through the 5 clinical phases. After that, we'll cover assessment and decontamination, get a handle on the antidote deferoxamine, and wrap up with complications and prognosis. So you pick up the next chart. It's a 3-year-old, 15 kilos, presenting 4 hours after getting into mom's prenatal vitamins. The story is they might have had about 30 tablets, each with 65 milligrams of iron. The very first question that has to pop into your head is this: is this a toxic dose? Now, here's the crucial bit. Your calculation has to be based on the elemental iron, not the salt form it comes in. As you can see, something like ferrous fumarate is pretty potent, but those prenatal vitamins, they're all over the place and can really pack a serious punch. Okay, so let's run the numbers for our patient. It's pretty straightforward. Step 1, 30 tablets times 65 milligrams per tablet. That gives us a whopping 1950 milligrams of elemental iron. Step 2, we just divide that by the kid's weight, 15 kilos, to get our final dose. And there's our number, 130 milligrams per kilogram. That number should set off alarm bells. Anything over 120 milligrams per kilo is considered potentially lethal. This puts our patient squarely in the highest risk category, and it means every single decision we make from here on out is critical. So, why is this so dangerous? Well, the real villain of the story is free iron. See, our body has this transport protein called transferrin, but it just gets completely overwhelmed. All this unbound iron then starts circulating and it just wreaks havoc. It shuts down mitochondria, creates free radicals, and leads directly to the shock and multi-organ failure that we're trying to prevent. So you have this ticking time bomb inside the patient. How does it actually play out clinically? Well, iron poisoning follows this really predictable but also notoriously misleading progression through 5 distinct phases. It all kicks off with GI toxicity, vomiting, diarrhea. Then it moves into this quiet latent period before the patient crashes into systemic toxicity and shock. If they pull through that, they face liver injury, and then finally, there's a risk of some long-term complications. I really want to pause on phase 2, the latent period. This is the ultimate clinical trap. The child's vomiting might stop, they might look a bit better, and it's so easy to be falsely reassured. But underneath the surface, iron is still being absorbed, and that cellular damage is accelerating towards a catastrophic collapse. Do not be fooled. Okay, so this brings us to our job. The kid rolls into your ED. What are the immediate moves for assessment and initial management?
Right. What are you gonna order? First, a serum iron level. We're right in that peak window. And you absolutely have to get a blood gas. A metabolic acidosis on that VBG is your best, earliest clue that you're dealing with systemic toxicity. An abdominal X-ray is a must because iron tablets are often radiopaque. And if that transferrin saturation comes back over 100%, that's your proof. You've got dangerous free iron on board.
Now, decontamination. Let's be crystal clear about this. Activated charcoal does not bind iron. It's totally useless here, so don't even think about it. The only thing you might consider is whole-bowel irrigation, and that's only if you've got a massive ingestion. We're talking over 60 milligrams per kilo, and you can actually see the tablets on the X-ray. Which brings us to the main event, the cornerstone of treatment for any severe iron poisoning, the antidote, deferoxamine.
But this is always the million-dollar question, isn't it? You're standing there in recess looking at the patient and you're wondering, is it time? Do we pull the trigger and start the infusion?
Thankfully, the indications are pretty absolute. If your patient has any signs of systemic toxicity, they're in shock, they're not mentating properly, they have a nasty metabolic acidosis, you start it, period. You also start it if that iron level comes back over 90. But remember the old rule, you always treat the patient, not just the number. So what's the dose? Well, the standard start is a controlled IV infusion at 15 milligrams per kilogram per hour. And I stress, controlled infusion. This is not a drug you just push. It's got to be delivered carefully with a patient on a monitor. And that's because the antidote itself can be dangerous. It has its own teeth. The 2 big ones you really have to watch for are hypotension, which is often related to how fast you're running the infusion, and ARDS, a devastating lung injury that's linked to high doses and prolonged use. Okay, so you've started the infusion, things are improving. When do you stop?
You're looking for a few things to line up. 1, the patient is clinically stable. 2, their acidosis is gone. And 3, that serum iron level has dropped safely into the normal range, so below 60 micromoles per liter.
All right, we are on the home stretch. Let's talk about the end game. What's the patient's prognosis look like? And what are the absolute key takeaways we need to lock in?
The things that predict a really bad outcome are, well, no surprise, exactly what we've been worried about all along. The development of that nasty phase 3 toxicity, a profound acidosis, needing pressors for shock, and showing up late. It all just highlights why we have to be so aggressive early on. So let's imagine our patient did great. The infusion is off, their vitals are rock solid, and they're heading up to the ward. Is the danger over? Are they out of the woods? Not quite. We can't forget about this sting in the tail phase 5. Weeks, even months later, that initial corrosive injury to the gut can cause scarring and lead to a gastric outlet obstruction. This is something that requires good discharge advice and follow-up. Okay, let's boil it all down. If you take nothing else away, remember this. 1, calculate that elemental iron dose immediately. 2, never ever be fooled by the latent fees. 3, charcoal is useless. 4, start deferoxamine for any sign of systemic toxicity. And 5, when you do start it, watch that blood pressure and they're breathing like a hawk.
And that's our rapid review of iron toxicity. If you found this high-yield explainer helpful, do us a favor and hit like and subscribe for more emergency medicine content. And hey, let us know in the comments what topic you'd like us to tackle next. Stay safe out there.